urban blues. My heart felt the night dead for you. I'm a little guy, too cool for the natural ache, with a secret tooth for the cherry on the cake, with a pious smile, a smile that changes what I say, while I waste my time in regretting that the days went from perfect to just okay.
Well, I've been writing songs for 20 years. I started writing when I was about 13. And when you're a kid, you know how it is. Everyone tells you should put that down, put that guitar down, put those tape recorders away, and
sit behind a desk.
And sit behind a desk. Yeah. And I suppose I was about 20 when I really thought that I wasn't going to be any good at anything else. My dad had a garage, the village I come from in County Durham in England. He had a garage, and I'd gone to college and I studied English and I studied history, but really I wanted to write songs. So I think that it became apparent to family that if I was working in a garage, yet I wanted to write things, I should maybe just get on and do it, that I wasn't going to do anything else, and I shouldn't just be selling petrol all day, because to be honest with you, I wasn't even very good at that. I'm not even very mechanically minded. I couldn't even do anything. If you came in with your engine, I couldn't do anything for you, you know. So I started to take it more seriously then.
So you literally just went into a bedroom and said, right, here's the idea, this is what I want it to be about, and I'm going to put it down on paper.
No, I worked in the garage so that I could write songs between the cars coming in. That's why I did it, because I thought it's the sort of job you can do, and there's a lot of waiting involved. And I used to write. I'd sit in the garage and I'd write. And on an evening, we'd rehearse and rehearse and rehearse in the back of the garage. We were literally a garage band. That's no joke. That's how we started. And by the time we made our first LP, Swoon, which is in 1983, I'd written hundreds of songs. Most of them will never see the light of day, mercifully. But I'd learned a lot, you know.
Have a seat. That's a stunning song.
What a great
song. I was reading some stuff yesterday, and something popped into my mind. Your album, Jordan the Comeback, been put into the top 5 album category of all these newspapers, and it's quite a diverse selection. The Sunday Times, The Times, The Daily Mail, The Independent, Q Magazine, Select, NME, Melody Maker, Rolling Stone, Sky Magazine. How have you managed to do that without being the centre of the gossip arena, that sort of stuff?
We put a lot of fivers in envelopes, and we... I don't know, I think that people don't like to be told what to like. And I can only presume that those people who got the record, they liked it. I mean, I've noticed since those reviews are published that there have been even more things written that are less kind, maybe because there's such a backlog of nice things that have been said about us. You know, no one likes to be told. Writing a verse in a song, the idea is a little bit like the other man's grass is always greener, and wherever you come from, you look abroad for the answer and think, well, life is going on in a more exotic place over there. And Memphis, to someone from County Durham or from any small town, I suppose, in Europe, is synonymous with Elvis Presley and excitement, and it's a mysterious land. And
so it's about your journey, basically.
Well, yeah, it's kind of looking away and thinking, oh, that's where the action is. When in fact you find out that you, wherever you're from, and wherever you go to, you take yourself with you. You always think that, you know, if you went somewhere else, your life would be so much better, but you carry yourself around with you and you forget that. So I wanted to put that in the song. It's not as if I feel I belong anywhere else. I'm still very much someone who likes and lives in the north of England. We have a Hammersmith Odeon concert, and then really that will be it until the end of the year, because we've got to record a new LP. Oh, we're going to Japan! How could I forget?
Oh no, that is exciting.
We're going to Japan in July.
June.
The end of June, yeah. That's just before we record the next record. I think it's mainly for promotion. I mean, God, it seems such a shame you fly all that way out. I think we're doing 2 concerts. I can't believe that.
That you do, please.
Ooh. trying to insinuate to our viewing public that I'm not very fond of playing live concerts. Really.
I know you're off to America very soon, and that a tour might be in the offing. You're sort of weighing that up at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you feel very dubious about your lifestyle then? You know, live playing, I mean.
I'm dubious about the what you have to show for it at the end of it. I mean, there might be about 1 billion cynics out there who would say that, well, you could have a lot of money to show for it at the end of a tour, but what you never have is a bunch of songs. And from a point of view of my own ego and vanity and ambition, I'd much rather have a big bunch of songs that I can make records with than a bag of money, because I think that your reputation lies on what you make. Tours never give you that. It's lovely for meeting fans. Yeah. It's lovely to visit places, even though you see little of them, as you will know. Yeah. But touring for Prefab Sprout, I don't think is the answer.
The album's absolutely tremendous. Are you back to compete in the marketplace?
Yes.
You are.
Easier said than done. Yeah, I mean, you've got to. Yeah, I hope to compete very seriously with it, but there are probably certain limitations on what I can actually do. In the sense that I'm not prepared to go on tour at all, and although I could turn around and eat my words if circumstances changed, it's hard. I can't really do what I want to do if I devote a massive time to going on the road. So yes, I'm taking it seriously, but not on the way that Bon Jovi have taken it seriously with 500 gigs a year.
Prefab Sprout are currently on their first major tour since 1985. Paddy McAloon isn't too keen about going out on the road.
I hate it. Because for only 1 hour or 2 hours of the day are you doing what you think you're any good at. And that's great. When you have the audience there, it's fine. But in between times, you can't write any songs. I like to spend a lot of time just by myself. You can call it antisocial or whatever, but that's what I like. That's where I get my best ideas, when I'm just by myself. And you can't do that when you're on tour.
A lot of people in show business don't care for the business side of it. But McAloon wasn't a huge fan of the shows either. Did you never play live?
We did a bit. Never terribly extensively. A month here, a couple of weeks there. And I would kind of just think, oh, I'm not writing. And the obsessive thing kicked in, and I didn't like it. And I'd go home and pretend that I wasn't known in any way.
With us now to celebrate this happy day is Paddy McAloon. Hello, Paddy.
Hiya, fellas. Nice to be here.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm great.
Great to talk to you. And I just the pictures we've seen of you, fully resplendent, acres of white hair and beardage. Is that still the look?
Yeah, the Paddy Vishnu Orchestra.
How long's that been cultivating? It looks like a long time.
That's not long, would you believe? That, you know, I shaved the long beard off ages ago, and it seems to have grown back very, very quickly. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Crimson Red, as I said, the first new stuff we've heard from you for a long time, but right. you never stop writing. Is this right?
No.
You're in there every day, are you?
I have something on the go every day. I try to avoid the studio. I don't actually like being in there, and people who know me will laugh, because when they hear me described as a recluse, they always say, God, you're always out and about somewhere, which is true.
Yeah.
However, when I get down to it, as I did last October, I decided to really go for it.
Right.
Do
you work at home, a studio at home?
Yes, I have Andromeda
Heights.
Yeah, it's attached to my tent.
You mentioned your manager Keith, who's been your manager for donkey's years, who I knew back in the day, and Martin, your brother, who's still very closely associated with you, and you live, sort of the part of the country where you've always lived. At what point, when you set off on this great rock and roll adventure, did it become obvious to you that you weren't going to live, in Bel Air, and that life was going to change but stay the same?
Well, I think it never occurred to me that we would move, which is, of course, terribly naive. If you want to have a career like Neil Diamond or Elton John, you've got to do that stuff. But I think somewhere at the back of my mind there was always the thing that the writing was the important thing.
Yeah. My basic problem Hans, is that I don't really love recording that much. It's a necessary step. And I've always been reluctant to say that to people because, you know, if a guy doesn't like to play live, and then you say you don't like the process of making records, did you pick the wrong job? And I've asked myself that, did you just pick the wrong job? But I think it's just the thrill of the writing. Doing the rehearsals for the tour in the early months of 2000. And it seemed like, I'll be honest with you, when I got out there and played for people, there's just it is a problem in that if you become a jukebox, don't you? You do become a jukebox for whoever the artist is or whoever the singer is. If people want to see you, they probably want to see you for the things that they like about you, and I think that's fair. You know, you've got to play your greatest hits. But it's never about new music. A live tour is never really about what's on your mind, whereas a record can be that. So that's why, again, since the tour, I've sort of pushed aside thoughts of playing live, because to me it's just recreating the past. It's a big nostalgia thing, and I don't love that as much as new things. I've never been shy of thinking of myself as a songwriter. You know, if someone said to me, what do you do? I'd say I write songs. I would rarely say, unless on this super professional occasion, well, I sing as well. You know, I'm a singer. I would never introduce myself to someone, well, I'm a pop singer, or I sing in a pop group, because I've always felt very, very sort of unsure about that side of things. So while I'm very confident about the songwriting, I'm in desperate need of help when it comes to making records. On average, in the case of these songs, well, let's have a look. It was, 8 weeks? You're looking at sort of a week per song or something like that, maybe. Roughly. And I don't like being in a studio that much. I like to write, but I don't like the legwork. The main engine for me is making something. The subject of the song, it matters less to me than the act of making something. I don't know how much this disillusions the listener. You know, sometimes I think it sounds like as if you don't have a deep connection with it, whereas I do. I have a profoundly deep connection with this. When I try and illustrate how he maybe felt, I will try and find the words that would express his sense of loss. But the impulse is always, for me, it's the drive to make things.
Outside the pop sphere, I know someone you admire tremendously is Robert De Niro. What is it particularly that you like about him? He doesn't do interviews. Can't you just love somebody who doesn't do interviews? Whereas everyone else, it gets to them in the end. You know, it gets to them in the end. One of the nicest things I think you could possibly do, and this would be my recipe to anybody who's going to be in a band or is going to try and launch themselves on the world. If you can suffer the first 6 years of not doing interviews, you're wise to do it. Because no matter how interesting you may be, or what fabulous things you've got to say about what you do, there's nothing so thrilling as wondering what someone's like. And I like that. I won't even talk about his acting, because I'd like that, and I love his films, and I love the general attitude that goes with it. I like the fact that he doesn't do interviews. I think that if you're looking for mystique and you're looking for mystery, let people think about you. And you're thinking, why am I doing this interview? And that's because I'm of a much humbler temperament than he is, and talent.
You've kept a pretty low profile for a while now. What's the thinking there? Because the kind of work that you're in, which is you're a songwriter, unfortunately, part of your job description is you have to go out there and promote it. Yes. And you choose not to do that anymore. You choose to remove yourself from that process.
Terribly,
Why is that, Paddy?
Probably some profound depression on some level. I don't even know how to talk about this. If you have a day of interviews, your head is so scrambled with you that I would sometimes come away just bewildered, and I would be very self-conscious. I'd maybe just reached a point where I simply couldn't do that, and then disaster struck with a hearing, and I was poorly, and
a whole series of things followed from that. So a lot of it was health related, and the fact that that has a knock-on effect with your mood. I'm a polite sort of person in general. I try to be polite, and I would have many questions had often been taken from some original source material in Britain, say a Mojo interview or Q or whoever the magazine was, and I would go abroad, I'd go to France, I'd go to Germany, and I would get, Paddy, you believe in perfect pop. Do you think you've made the perfect pop record? And rather than start every time with saying, I don't know that I believe in perfect pop, I try to define terms, I would come out with some bland answer, and at the end of a day, after a day of this, I would feel vaguely psychotic, but it had a sort of like repetitive strain injury that I thought, God, I'm a man who goes to all the capitals of Europe and talks about the same answers, the same question about perfect pop. And I thought in 1997 I was 40 and I could not do it anymore.
I'm sorry, Cars and Girls is such a goddamn obscure thing to talk about. It's just I try every interview I do and I see myself disappearing.
You see yourself
disappearing through this explanation of what Cars and Girls are. I'm feeling, Jesus, it's only a record.
It seems to me that on the album, in places, you're perhaps having a go at some of the oversimplified postures and language used by rock in that song, and also King of Rock and Roll.
Yeah, that's the one point I omitted in my summing up of Cars and Girls, that there are certain stock attitudes that people foist on you with pop music, the Cars and Girls and the glamour, blah, 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 blah.
Now, what about all this stuff that in interviews that you've given in the past, you've proclaimed yourself to be one of the great songwriters, you know, up there with Lennon and McCartney or whatever. Do you feel a bit of a fool when you see it in print, though, afterwards?
When you see things in print, they're completely out of proportion. You can be having if your viewer was to imagine him or her having a conversation with a friend about groups that they liked or disliked, they might say, I hate that group. If they were then to see it in print, it suddenly looks much stronger than just a common expression. Similarly, when I'm talking to someone, if I get very heated in an argument about songwriting, then I'm likely to come out with things that written down would look really awful. I mean,
okay, well, nobody's writing this down, Paddy. How good are you, then?
How good am I? I wouldn't put myself up there with Lennon and McCartney. That's the first thing. I don't do that. When I've said things in the past, more in terms of... This is difficult to explain, but I look at today's songwriting scene or records, and I don't see much there that scares me to death, if I can describe it in a sort of negative way. There's nothing that it's like, you look around for people whose company you would be ashamed to be in, and most of the people who would scare me to death are now dead themselves, or not functioning on the same level they did when they were great, the Beach Boys and the Beatles, people like that.
Some people, of course, could accuse you of digging your own grave in that some of your press statements have been quite provocative. You've said that you consider yourself to be one of the best songwriters in the world, for example. How much of that is purely self-belief and how much of it is just trying to sort of grab the headlines?
Well, I don't think I'm really very good at grabbing headlines. I come out with those sort of statements and then immediately back off. I can give you examples where if you came to me and said that you didn't really rate me, then I would probably, metaphorically speaking, go for your throat by saying I was a genius. But if you said to me, you're possibly the best songwriter I've ever heard, then I would say, oh, no, and I would list you the people I like. I suppose it's a psychological defense mechanism that you say one thing to me, I feel as though I've got to balance it out.
The album opens with The Best Jewel Thief in the World. It's a very infectious song, almost sung with some kind of admiration. And I was wondering, were you thinking of anyone or anything in particular?
The Best Jewel Thief in the World. The point that you make about it sounding like almost admiring of the character, it's a song about being a writer. The metaphor of a jewel thief is really about the arrogance that you need to sit down and make the blank page come alive. You need a mixture of humility, but at the same time, when it's going well, you need to think this is the best thing ever. And a large part of my life is that you are oscillating between a sense that you're useless, and then when it's going well, you think, oh, I can do this, I'm good at this, and then you're back again the next day with the next sheet of paper. So at the back of my mind, Jewel Thief is about sort of personal struggle.
I was quite surprised there were 19 tracks on it. I mean, that's value for money time, isn't it, really? I mean, do you think about that? Is that...
Yeah, I mean...
or did you just have a lot written?
No, I had more songs written, and we... thought that the 19 would tell a certain story together, those songs. Certain of them are on themes that run together through the LP.
Well done on the new album. It must be a great relief now that it's up and running.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was because of it's 19 songs long, perhaps I should say. I was a little nervous of ever finishing it.
It must rank in the history books as one of the biggest LPs. I mean, in terms of duration and that has actually ever been put on vinyl.
It was I suppose it is. I think Def Leppard have clocked in it. This is 63. They're about 64 minutes. Yeah. It pushes the limits as to what you can do on vinyl.
With Prefab Sprout's fifth album, Jordan, The Comeback, Paddy McAloon teamed up with Thomas Dolby to produce 19 songs. The lyrics are appropriately nimble for a songwriter who sings of himself as the Fred Astaire of words.
The line that comes before it is very important. It says, "Any music worth its salt is good for dancing, but I tried to be the Fred Astaire of words." That was really just me playing on the idea of the Prefab Sprout image as, oh, well, you can't dance to it, so what good is it? I was trying to answer my critics by saying, well, I try to be the Fred Astaire of words. I realized that it's a completely pompous thing to say, and that's why I put it in there. I thought it was funny.
The other pleasurable aspect of a song, for me, as a writer, is the fun that you have with words. The pure, sensuous pleasure of having adjacent, a word like adjacent in a song. It has to come naturally when you're playing the guitar. These things have to flow, but you might look at it afterwards and go, that's an unusual word to have in a song. And there's a sort of thrill in doing that. You know, it can be funny. If it's going to be moving, that's okay too. People like that. But I'm quite happy with a bit of nonsense, as long as the words fit the music, and it's got to be entertaining.
I was interested to read somewhere that you feel that perhaps your songwriting tradition owes more to people like Stephen Sondheim, Gershwin, maybe more than...
That's an extremely flattering kind of assessment by anyone. I like those people. I would never even say I was in their tradition, because they are real songwriters.
Who influences you, Paddy, when you sit down in the evening? Who do you listen to?
Who do I listen to? Well, I tend to listen to music a lot when I'm travelling, because if I'm at home, I'll work. So I'll take tapes with me, and I take all kinds of things that maybe you wouldn't really think from the music. I listen to Michael Jackson records, or Prince records, or I like musicals. I like West Side Story. And Stephen Sondheim is probably my all-time favourite songwriter. He did a little night music. His big hit is Ascending the Clowns. I love his stuff. I just think he's so adventurous a writer. I like the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, a thousand
huge
things.
cross-section.
Oh yeah. Nothing particularly. Oh, it's just like what we do. You know, the sort of the songwritery aspect. I like good music. You know, whatever it may be.
And my own tastes in classical music are probably early 20th century, you know, like Ravel or Debussy, late 19th, early 20th, or Stravinsky, which are, you know, a lot of pop music is drawn from that, the ninths or the 13th chords that you will hear in music. It seems to me that they come basically from Debussy or Ravel, and I think I have that. You know, as if I lean on that as a sort of as a texture that I like. I mean, you know, I think that certain things are in the music that I'm not. You know, I would like to be more of a light-hearted person, and I would like to do things that would just had a bit more of a smile in them. But even the things that I do that are, you know, I'm 49. One of the small tracks on this. You know, when I look at it now, I think, oh, it's a song about a middle-aged crisis. Yeah. It's hardly teeny bopper music.
It's over and over again.
Oh, that's right. And
As
over
they say in the
and
song.
over again. That's right. But you know, you're trying to. I mean, I suppose it makes it. I still find that humorous. It's like dark humor that someone is having this terrible, terrible time, and all you can really do about it is admit that that's where you are, that you're middle-aged and these things have happened to you, and it would make you smile. But sometimes it bothers me that those are my preoccupations in song, when it should be something lighter and funny. It's not hot dog jumping frog anymore. Oh God. It's still a novelty record though. That's probably the thing that's in common with it. It's still a novelty record. Just a grim one. I'm 49.
I'm writing a Christmas album, a song of modern Christmas songs, because I don't think that's been done in a while, and I would like to maybe get some different singers in to do that. You know, maybe it'd be a Prefab Sprout record, but with a few guests on it.
Total Snow, a Christmas song.
I knew you were going to ask that one. I just guessed that. Total Snow. Christmas album.
Yeah.
I think it's got a basic problem, my Christmas album, which is that it's too sort of too grown up for Christmas. You can't have songs that are sort of that may, you know, doubt certain truths about the Christmas story, or you can't have religious doubt in a Christmas
You have to
song.
still believe in Santa.
Yes, you have to still believe in Santa. Yeah. And I'm not sure that my music these days believes in Santa.
Yeah.
That's the trouble. But some of them, you know, I do have a few from 1985, which are The Madman on the Roof is one of them, about Santa Claus. Which actually works like an old-fashioned Christmas song, because it's got that lightness of spirit and it's got the sleigh bells. But one or two of the others were just too solemn for Christmas, and you can't have that. But I think I might go back to that one day, you know, and do maybe a few instrumentals on it. I was thinking the other day, a good title would be "Has He Been Yet?" Because that's what kids always say. Has he been yet? ? And it would just have to be an instrumental. You wouldn't need any words at all, and you'd give that complete atmosphere of a child's excitement on Christmas morning. But I think in America they're bigger on Christmas records than in certainly in Britain. I don't know how it is in Sweden. Is there a market for them? For a Christmas record?
Oh, definitely.
There is, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. But I think there is also a market for the one who is not only for the Destiny's Child
sure.
There should be
an alternative Christmas record.
Yeah, the alternative Christmas records, definitely, because
there should be.
People are so puzzled, so they play all kinds of shit during Christmas, because you're trapped.
No, you're trapped, that's right.
Total Snow, the Sprout, Prefab Sprout Christmas album, has now been on the go since 1986. I've perfected the look, obviously. I've got that down pretty cold now, and hope to do something with that one of these days. In fact, I have enough for two Christmas albums.
Earth, the story so far.
Earth, the story so far. That's one of my. That's one of the pieces that troubles me most, because it's all written. I just didn't have the energy to record it.
Earth, the story so far.
The records that you've got out, it's sad going back to them. If I go back to them, it reminds me of the times that they were made, and even if I'm having a great time, I feel a bit sad about the whole thing. You can't get it back. You sound younger than you do now. You know, if I listen to Steve McQueen, which I try not to do, but you know, since we had a best of like that, some of those songs are on there, and you just hear something in the voice that's, you know, you're 26 or you're 27, as opposed to 35, and that's going to be there forever. And if that sense of that sort of sadness isn't quite the word, but that feeling of time going past you can only increase as the years go by, you know.
How do you look back on earlier Prefab Sprout recordings now? Are you still like tired, or feel like you don't really?
I don't really. You know, it's funny because you know, we were talking about how, you know, treacherous your memories can be, and how unreliable they are. I think it's really. I don't have a very clear picture of them. That's the honest answer to that. The records are always confused in my mind with the song
as it was on a piece of paper when I was writing it. And so in my head I'm still hearing what I wrote, whereas everyone else has heard what's on the record, and that may be the only thing they have of that, or their memories attached to it. So I'm never quite sure how close I got to what I wanted, or if it's too far away from what I wanted, or whether the record we made was better than the original idea, as I'm sure it sometimes was, you know. But I don't think a lot about it, to be honest. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the old ones.
So you don't go back and think like, well, maybe Thomas did take too much place with producing Steve McQueen.
Oh, right. I mean, sometimes, yes, of course. I know I will hear things. I will have mixed feelings about things. Usually, it's usually more basic than that. I'll think that my writing style is too fussy, or I sound too prissy, or I sound... I know why some of those records sound the way they did, because I wanted them to be more complex than live recordings. But yes, sometimes I'll think, well, what was wrong with the demo? What was wrong with the live recording? You know, and then you get into a cycle of, oh, well, so have you, could you have had a completely different sound, you know, over all this time? Could you have made a different kind of record? And I sometimes think, well, yeah, probably could have done. You know, we could have gone more in a direction that we had when we first started, like Lines in My Own Garden, where it would have been much rougher. And, you know, but I didn't want to do that at the time, so I can take the whole thing to bits. You know, I can really pull it all to bits if I get started on it.
Glancing over your shoulder, obviously the songs you've produced with Prefab Sprout over the years still resonate for many people. I mean, how do you look back on that mid-80s, early 90s period of music making? Do you look at it with tremendous affection, or do you not recognise that version of yourself anymore?
I don't recognise that version of myself anymore. That's the truth of it. The last time I had a good look at it was when we played live in 2000. And I was appalled some nights to stand on the stage. I don't mean appalled in the sense of, not so much that I disliked the music, it wasn't that. I felt a bit fraudulent. It was somebody else. And the most astonishingly strong feeling. People were clapping and enjoying it, and I had this really strong sense that that was a much younger version. And it was a slightly melancholy feeling, because he was extremely optimistic. And I don't even like telling you that, because I find it a bit disappointing. You know, there are some people, and they're very philosophical, and just saying, hey, that's the way life is, like the Jack Nicholson approach. You're young, that's great. You're middle-aged, you're still here, that's great. You're old, that's great too. But when I look back at it, in our humble way, your small band had a bit of success, although we probably sold a few more records than a lot of people realise. However, my thoughts were, if I feel like that with my modest repertoire, I wonder how McCartney feels when he stands and does. You know, I saw her standing there.
Yeah.
There's no one else on the record. I'm kind of flying a ghost ship here. Because about 2006, I had like a hearing problem. Extreme tinnitus. I had 6 months. I woke up one morning and the ear was making noises in my head. Terrible trouble. It's left me with reduced bass frequencies. So if I'm playing an instrument like a piano, or if I hear a bass guitar, my ear will not distinguish between the notes. Sort of an amalgamation which is useless for a musician. The upshot of this is that I can't really play in front of a drum kit or with a bass amplifier, but volume is an issue. I tend to work reasonably quietly and use a lot of machines that have programmed sounds in, so keep it at a safe level. But there's no one else there, which is a source of grief to me, really. I don't like to make too much of a thing of this so that the listener will be, you know, befuddled or think I'm looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for anyone to pity me. The way I work also has like a lot of consequences, and is the consequence of circumstances. If you can't really have a band, it's difficult to pay them. The natural thing for us to do now would be to go out and play the back catalogue, or play Steve McQueen, or just a bunch of hits. But because I can't really do that, I'm on a reduced scale of how I work. So for you know, this is the first batch of new material in a long while, and part of it is that I've never stopped writing. I try to make it sound good, but what can you do when you only hear properly out of one ear I just plugged things in the back of the desk, the mixing desk, and thought it looks okay on the meters, it sounds okay-ish. And when I handed it over to Callum, I let him worry about whether things were in phase and whether things were overcooked or undercooked, and he kind of, you know, that's his side of things.
For the listener, if there's any songwriter you like or any piece of music you like and you've ever wanted to write a fan letter to that person, that is my fan letter to my heroes. Specifically Jimmy Webb in that case, that's what the story's about. But it could be to a number of people where you want to say you really know how to move someone.